and welcome, Cooking Made Simple with Chef Kelly. Today I'd like to introduce you to the Hyatt Regency Boston, and I'd like to also thank the Hyatt Regency Boston as I'm the executive chef, and today we're going to offer you a menu that's part of our wedding package, and I want to showcase some of our signature items. So today we have a great pancetta wrapped chicken, a pistachio crusted swordfish, and some little sides of jasmine rice with saffron, some sauteed Swiss chard, and some roasted peppers. So we got a lot to do because we have a banquet to put out. So let's get started. So as I said, I'm the executive chef of the Hyatt Regency in Boston downtown, also director of culinary services. And one of the things that we do at the hotel is we service some functions of both business and social. So more importantly, we do some great weddings. And one of our most popular wedding dishes is a chicken that's wrapped with pancetta and stuffed with Fontina cheese. So I want to kind of introduce you to these items that are our signature dishes and show you how to make them. Now, of course, I had to make some little variations of them so that way it would be easier for a home cook to be doing these items. So we're going to get started. I want to tell you a little bit about the chicken we have here and everything we have going on. So this particular chicken, it's called a Statler cut, or it's also known as an airline cut. You have this little wing bone to it, right? It's boneless underneath it. This wing bone is more of a kind of decorative bone, right? You have the skin on it. It's a nice piece here, right? We have a couple of these. You see them upside down. So the thing about this particular chicken is that it tastes great because of three things. One, it has the fat on top. It also has fat in the middle, and then it's wrapped with fat. So those are the three ingredients that make this chicken so good. Fat, stuffed with fat, and wrapped with fat. So we're going to get started really quickly. It's a quick, simple dish, but there's a few things that we have to do to really get it going. So I want to get this thing seared off first. Let me take this out of the way so we can work. So I got my pan on a medium heat, right? Notice I touched it, and I can see how hot it is. I don't recommend it at home if you're not trained to this, okay? So we got some olive oil, and we're going to put some salt on both sides. Now, when you do any type of seasoning, you don't want to contaminate your product. So use one hand to touch the raw and one hand to touch the seasoning, okay? So we'll put some salt and pepper on these guys. I like a nice salt, a pepper that's a little bit more coarse, so it has more texture to it, and I can feel it, right? I'm also using a little bit of kosher salt here. All right, so we're going to move this salt and pepper out of the way. Now, so far so good. Pretty simple. Salt and pepper. We're going to put some olive oil in the pan. We're going to get a nice medium heat, okay? And we're going to sear it on both sides. We're going to take them out, and then we're going to make a little pocket, and we're going to stuff it with a little Fontina cheese. So if you don't have Fontina, you can use Gouda. You can use a nice, kind of a medium-sized, thick cheese that's a little bit not too soft. So when it melts, it still has a little texture to it. Okay, we'll come back to the cheese in a bit. In the meantime, let's get this one started because it's going to take a little time to get cooking. All right, so notice how, if you look at this, if you can see, I'm not sure if you can see this oil, but it's the little smoke's coming up in the pan. Okay, the oil is nice and hot, and it's really swishing the pan around. Notice I'm using a stainless steel pan because there's a rationale behind it. And the most important thing about this is that sound that I'm hearing. Okay, it's searing. Now, don't let them touch, because if you let them get close together and they touch a little bit, in this case it's touching a little bit, but you don't want them overlapping too much on each other. They'll start to steam, and we don't want that. So we want a space in between them, okay? So we're going to sear our chicken, and then we'll take them back out and make a little pocket. Pretty simple. It's a really simple technique. What's nice about this chicken, if you're doing it for a special occasion, you can do it to the point where we're going to be at with wrapping it the day before. And then you can certainly put it in the oven when you're ready to start to serve it. Okay, I'll cook it that night. So right over here, we have the chicken searing up. Now, you're searing the chicken. What are you trying to do with the chicken? We're trying to sear in the juices, but more importantly, get some color, deep color, good flavor, right? So notice that it was hot enough where it didn't stick. And see that color there? Almost good, just a little bit more, but I wanted to show you that. See, it's not sticking, but the color's not right there. So I want to let that, this may have been the first one we put down. Color not right there yet. And this was way too blonde. So we'll bring this up a little bit, a little higher. But it's important to note, the pan was nice and hot. The oil kind of was swished around the pan. It kind of had a nice shimmery to it. And then I went skin side down to sear it. And I don't have them touching. All that's going to keep it from sticking as long as it's hot enough. The other part about this particular pan and why I want to use it is that it's going to have some natural juices that are in here, and they're going to cook down. And as they cook down, they're going to add to the flavor of what we're going to make. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. We have a couple steps to do before that. All right? So we got our chicken searing. That color is nice and deep. This color is nice color here. This one's starting to come around, and this color is good. So far this guy's dragging. We'll catch up. All right, you're going to sear your chicken. Now let's talk about this cut. As I said to you before, it's called a Statler or an airline breast. Statler is actually clean, or French as they call it. This is an airline breast that has the wing bone, and it looks really pretty on the plate. You could certainly do this without, but the key to this dish is to have the skin on the chicken. So if you go to the butcher, you ask them to give you a chicken breast with the skin on. So you'll have to take it off a fresh chicken, whole, and cut it down with the skin on it so you can do this dish. If he wants to get fancy and leaves the wing bone, nice. It's a nice presentation piece. Looks beautiful. Okay? All right, so we got our colors good over there. I don't have to cook this too long, because all I'm trying to do is just get a good sear. All right, now, once this chicken is done, we're going to put this pan off to the side. We're going to come back to the pan a little bit, because it's important to know that we're going to make a pan sauce in here. So what I'm going to talk to you about is cooking at home, simple, right? That's the whole point of the Cooking Made Simple. What we can do to have some alternatives to what I do in a hotel. Okay, so this one is good enough now. I'm going to shut this off for a minute. We're going to come back to this. This is an important, all this juice here, all this stuff down here is really important. Okay, we call it the fond in the pan. So that all the natural juices cook down and they give you a deeper flavor. And when you make your turkey gravy, you kind of put it in here and all the drippings. It's kind of what the same thing is. I'm just going to put this off to the side. We'll come back to that. Let it cool. Okay? And now we'll work with the chicken. Once the chicken is cool enough to handle, okay, we're going to make a little pocket. So it's fairly cool for me to handle it. All right, so on the fattest piece right here, if you can see this, I'm going to make a little pocket. I'm not going to go all the way through, but I'm going to kind of move it around a little bit. Now, this cheese here, it's not a stuffing like a breading stuffing, right? It's just a piece of cheese. So what it does is, as it cooks inside the chicken, it melts. And as it melts, it makes it nice and luscious and silkiness on the inside. So you get this nice fat piece right there. Okay? Pretty simple. Now you can do this with different types of cheeses, blue cheese if you like. You can make a stuffing and stuff it with a little stuffing in there if you want to do a bread stuffing, you know, cranberry or whatever season we're in, you know. Make a couple of, do all the pockets. Now what I like to do typically when I work, and because I'm a professional, we like to do everything at once. So we'll make all the pockets first and do all the stuffing first and do all the wrapping first next, right? So we do one thing at a time, one step. We don't do one and wrap it and come back. So if it's a little big, we just take a little down, we stuff it inside the chicken here, okay? Trim it up. You don't need an awful lot. You're looking about maybe a ½ ounce of cheese, okay? Some Fontina is a nice, silky, smooth, soft-textured cheese from Italy that's made with cow's milk and has a nice mildness to it, but it has a little tang that kind of stands out, and it melts really, really nice. Okay, so we got these 4 pieces of chicken. Stuffed with this cheese. Can't find my pocket here. Here it is. Okay. Now, notice that it didn't break through. It's still full. This is natural from when they cut the chicken. Okay. It's all like this. Pretty simple so far, right? So we're going to get ready for baking it in a second. So now I got some pancetta. Now, here's the challenge with the pancetta. Me in the hotel, what we do, we freeze it and we slice it the long way, whereas you normally get it from the butcher or the store round. And you can certainly put it round like that, but because we wrap it like so, okay? Very simple. We don't have to do any tying. You just wrap it like this, and it comes out real nice. So when it cooks, it gets nice and tight, right? So what is pancetta? Pancetta is cured, Italian version of bacon, but not smoked, right? It's rolled, and they usually season it with some pepper inside it. So you have these nice pieces here. This happens to be a little bit on the lean side, which is fine. But remember I told you, fat is the flavor here. So we got chicken with fat, stuffed with fat, wrapped with fat. So we know it's going to be really good. All right, so pretty simple so far, right? Didn't do anything spectacular. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bacon dish right here. So you have a couple options here. If you're going to serve it in this nice earthenware dish like I have here, okay, you just put these guys in here. Make sure there's enough space in between them, okay, so they can cook evenly. I got a fourth piece here. Put them off to the side, okay, and you cook them and you can serve them like that. And then later on, you can take your one piece and put it on the plate. So you can serve it like this, or you can go ahead and put them in individual pan and then take them out and plate them up if you like. Okay, so I just want to put this here so they can all cook nice and evenly. And we're going to put this guy in the oven. All right, so far so good, right? We seared the chicken. We made a pocket. We stuffed it with a little bit of cheese, right? We wrapped it with pancetta, and we're good to go. All right, so this is in the oven. I want to put this guy in the oven. And depending on your oven, and I say this because as a professional, even ovens at work are different from one another. Different brands, different things that are going on. So you're going to go anywhere between a 325 to 400 based on what you got going on. Now, I want a lower temperature so the pancetta renders a little slowly. I don't want a high temperature where it crisps up before the chicken's done and it starts to break. So if you do it on a slower temperature, like a lower temperature, like 325 to 350, if you have a fan, 325, 350, if you have a convection oven, then you want to make sure you are going a little slower. If you don't have a fan, you're probably looking at 375 to 400, so it cooks slowly as well, but you got to help it along with some additional heat. So we have this in the oven over here. We're letting it go, okay? And we're going to come right back and start doing the swordfish. Okay, now on to the swordfish. This is so simple, okay? I just can't believe how simple this is, but how good it is. All right, so we have some really great swordfish right now. So swordfish has a season, and basically the season is September, October, November, December, kind of the fall into the winter. So we're coming to the beginning of that season. And why is that important? Because what happens with the swordfish is all summer long, all spring long, they start eating really well and they get nice and fat. And come September, October, they get nice and juicy and they eat really well. So swordfish season is really kind of in the fall. And what I like to do is I usually like to serve swordfish on my menus typically in the fall and the winter. And by the end of the winter into the spring, beginning of spring, they start getting a little leaner, a little drier. So you got to help it along. So nuts is really good about doing that because nuts kind of give you natural oils and cover it, right? And then we're going to put some other things as well. What I like to do alternatively in that season, when it comes to the spring and summer, is halibut. Halibut season is great at that point. It eats really well. Doesn't do so well in the winter. It usually you got farm raised stuff, not the same. But swordfish is working really. It's still eating pretty well right now, believe it or not. But I highly recommend you look at it more in the October, November, December time. Anyway, so this cut here is a nice center cut. I got a little skin on it. It's presentation. You can certainly take the skin off. I wouldn't really recommend the eating. It kind of looks nice. Really simple recipe. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to put some olive oil in the pan right here, okay? Some white wine as well, all right? And then we're going to put some black pepper and some salt in here. And simply with my finger, I'm just going to mix it a little bit, okay? And I'm going to dip these swordfish pieces in here, all right? Let them get nice and wet. I'm not keeping them in here long. I'm just going to get them wet for a few minutes. Season them up, right? And then we'll make our little nut mixture, which is really simple. That's why we have this little mixer here, okay? So once they get nice and coated, I'll put them back in here and hold them up. All right, so that's, put the swordfish out of the way for 1 second. Take out this dish. All right, next. So what do we have in this dish? This is a pistachio crusted swordfish. So I take some pistachio nuts, okay, about a cup or so, right? Put some panko breadcrumb, right? About a half a cup to a cup based on what you have in there. I'm going to put this on here. A little bit chunky, want a little bit less, a little bit more finer. Okay. I got a little parsley chopped. Kind of pull out the green. Done. Now we take our nice little pistachio breadcrumb, if you will, right? Move this guy out of our way. And another pan that we're going to bake it with. A little spill. We don't want to have an accident. Let's just pick that up. All right, so this is pretty simple. That's seasoned, ready to go, right? We're going to put a little oil in the pan here. Rub it up. Now, we're just going to crust it. Really simple, right? Now, the thing is that the oil and the wine that we dip the fish in, okay, it's not really there to marinate it. It's there to make it wet and sticky, okay? So now we have our nice swordfish right here. Notice I got a nice thick cut too, so it holds up the juice better. So in my banquet world, if I have a wedding, it's important to make things juicy. So you want to have a nice thick piece to it, right? Something that holds up, all right? So we got our swordfish going here. Try and get them to even sides. So if it's a little bit thick, just push it down so they cook evenly. Now, if you contaminate this breadcrumb with the fish and you have a lot left over, you can freeze it and then you can use it for another fish down the road, within a month or so. So don't think you're going to lose it. Because nuts could be expensive, so you don't want to lose it. But what's nice about the nuts here is that it really does a nice coating. And it keeps the nice natural oils in it. Make it nice and moist. All right? So we're coating this over here. You got the breadcrumb. So the nuts will get too crunchy, so the breadcrumb helps soften that up. All right, so this is pretty simple. Now, there's no searing. Just bacon in the oven. Put this guy over here. Okay. If you got a little bit of dry spot, mist spot, just go like that. And then a little bit of light oil on top. And we're going to bake this guy in the oven as well. So again, 350 to 400 based on your oven. Okay. And we'll let that go for about, give or take, 25, 30 minutes based on how thick they are, how strong your oven is. And the chicken's actually cooking right side by side with it. That's going to be probably close to the same amount of time. The thing with the chicken is it has a little bit of pocket opening, right? So as the cheese melts, the air gets in there, the heat gets in there, so it gets in there quicker. Now, the swordfish you can have a little underdone. The chicken you certainly want fully done. So they're probably going to cook close to the same amount of time. All right, so that's what we have right now. We have the swordfish and we have the chicken in the oven. So I'm going to clean up and I'll see you right back in 2 minutes. All right, so welcome back. We're going to go fast now, all right? So this is a kitchen. We're really working. This is a restaurant, hotel kitchen. We're going really fast now. So I'm going to knock out 3 things really quickly. So pay attention. Let's go. We're going to be like Hell's Kitchen. We're going to go really fast. Ready? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to roast some peppers in the oven, okay? Because we got a big wedding tonight. And we got a great roasted chicken, pancetta wrapped, stuffed with fontina. We also have a pistachio crusted swordfish. I need some roasted peppers with this. All I'm doing right here is just cutting them into 4, take this little seeds out. I'm leaving the little green top on it. I'm going to season it up, roast them in the oven. Bang, 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 really fast. This is like all those cooking shows you see all the time. When you go really quickly, this is what it is right here. So we're going to make a sauce. We're going to roast these peppers. And then we're going to make a nice saffron rice. Okay? And you say, saffron rice, how are you going to do it so quick? Well, you'll see. Okay? So we got these seeds out of the way. Right? I left one here. Let's take this one out. We don't want seeds here. Roasted peppers. Really simple. What's nice about this one, it's really simple. We're going to put a little bit of vinegar. I happen to have some white balsamic. Remember, in your pantry, you want a couple things around. Balsamic, dark balsamic, white balsamic. Some red wine vinegar, some white wine vinegar, some sherry vinegar, whatever you want. We're going to put some olive oil on this guy. All right? Some salt and pepper. Okay? And then I'm going to get a little bit of fresh rosemary. Okay, I got this from my garden. I brought my little planter with me. Okay, we're going to take some rosemary. Now, when you're doing rosemary and thyme and sage, those type of herbs, you want to cook them. You don't want them, they're kind of sappy. All right, so you don't want them to kind of taste like you're eating a Christmas tree. So you mix this guy up. Okay, nice high temperature. Okay, put the skin down so it blisters a little bit. That's what I'm hoping for. All right, we got our roasted peppers going in the oven. We got our chicken in the oven. We got our swordfish in the oven. Everyone's working right now. Next, back to the pan we talked about when it came to working with the chicken. I sear the chicken. See that stuff here? I'm reheating it a little bit because I took it off the stove. But while I'm waiting that to reheat, let's talk about our rice. We got a nice basmati rice or jasmine rice, whatever you prefer. I got some vegetable stock. I think we talked about this before. In your pantry, you want some vegetable broth. Got a little extra water in case I need it. Some saffron right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of onion. In this case, some shallots. I'm going to put 1 or 2 cloves of garlic. So we got our pan right here. We're going to put some oil in here. We're going to sweat this up a little bit. What does that mean, sweat? That means that we're going to kind of lightly saute it so that the flavor and the smell start, their aromatics come out, right? The aroma comes out. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to sweat that up. We got some rice here, okay? And we got some saffron. Now, the saffron's going to give a nice color, and I got a little bit of vegetable stock. It's tomato-based, so it has a lot more tomato in it. But it doesn't necessarily mean you got to use this one. A little sediment there. If you got a broth you buy already, certainly you can use it. If you have a base, you can use that. If you want to make your own, pretty simple to do. But again, we're trying to make it simple and quick. So we got the peppers in the oven. We got the chicken in the oven. We got the swordfish in the oven. We got a lot going on, right? There we go. So we're going to let this guy sweat a little bit. Turn up the temperature of this stove. Okay. And now, this is getting nice and hot. All right, so we're going to come over here. Leave this guy alone. We'll come back to it in a second. Here's what I want to do. I got our pan here cooking, getting nice and hot. So I'm going to cook up some mushrooms. You can use portobello mushrooms. You can use cremini mushrooms. You can use shiitake mushrooms. Whatever mushroom you prefer. These happen to be white button mushrooms. Give them a rinse. Don't submerge them too much because then you get water and you'll miss out on the sear. So this chicken dish that we're working on is kind of reminiscent of a chicken marsala or chicken saltimbocca, really. It is Marsala Wine in it. And chicken saltimbocca, right, is wrapped. It has prosciutto in it. And it has sage, right? You might have some mozzarella on there. So it's kind of the same idea of it. So I hear somebody here. Let's see. Ah, there we go. I can smell them. So when you look over here, you can see the smell's coming up. I can smell it. I can see it starting to bubble up a little bit. Okay, now, this is important. We want to put the rice in here, and we want to make sure the rice kind of warms up and starts to open up those little pores so they absorb the liquid, right? get nice and hot. They get nice and coated. And then the kernels, the rice kernels kind of open up a little bit and they absorb a little bit better. I'm not making a risotto, so I'm not trying to do that method. Okay. All right, so let that heat up a little bit. I can see this starting to bubble. So I want to put our garlic. You can hear that sound, right? Can you hear it, guys? I don't know if you can hear it on TV, but I hear it. I got the oil going here. We're going to put our mushrooms. Now this is going to be your sauce for your chicken. Let that guy go. All right, this is getting nice and hot. We're going to add some stock to it. Okay. Now with basmati and jasmine rice, they're kind of a different size than your typical pilaf rice. So you're going a little bit over, like 1 1/4 to 1 cup. That's what you typically do. I got a little extra water here. I don't think I'm going to need it. Now, I'm going to put some salt in here. And we got the saffron. It's going to have a beautiful color. So you got, instead of using water, right, I'm using some stock. So it gives me some flavor. Saffron here. Put some salt in there. Kind of lower it a little bit. All right. Now we're good on that one. Next. See this little sear that's going on? These are important. I want to make sure you see that. That little brown is important. So we're going to put a little bit of white wine. We're going to put some Marsala wine. We'll season it with salt and pepper. Okay, and then we got our chicken stock. It's kind of a rich chicken stock that I have here, right? So I was able to make it at the hotel and bring it. But if you were going to use a broth from home, you know, you could just adjust it. So this is a little too high. I want to lower this one. Because what happens is that if you let it too high and boil it too high, it evaporates a little too fast. And then you have less water for the rice to absorb. So you want to kind of go on a medium heat on it. Okay? All right, so this is getting a nice sear brown. And all these little bits down the bottom of this pan here from the chicken that we seared earlier, okay? You get a little bit brown. Now, I want to go ahead and deglaze it. It's an important step. A little wine to that. So that's going to pull up the bits on the bottom of the pan. It's going to pull it up, and it's going to have that nice natural. This already has a great flavor before I did anything else to it. All right, so you got the white wine cooking it out. Now I'm going to add some Marsala wine. Again, I told you, very similar to, it's a Marsala sauce essentially, right? So that's what this is. Now listen, you don't have Marsala wine, what do? Ah, forget it, we can't eat, let's go out. Use Madeira wine, or don't use any wine at all. It's okay, it's okay. Again, this is whatever you have. This is, I'm showing you the recipe that we work with. You can adjust it. So adjust it to what works for you. If you don't have it, you're still going to have dinner that night, don't worry. So clean up this a little bit over here. I'm letting this guy cook down. Now, it's important to note that I want this alcohol to cook out. It's where I could smell it. It's really sharp right now. I want the alcohol to cook out, and I really want that flavor to cook down. The sweetness is going to cook down. All right, so we'll let that cook. The mushrooms are going to cook really well here. I want to take a peek in the oven here, see how everybody's doing. Chicken's looking good. Okay, I could smell the peppers. They just hit me right in the face here. I'm going to lower my oven just a little bit because I got a lot of things happening down here. Okay, so you hear him boiling? I hear him boiling. Just got to slow down this guy. All right, so look, we got our Marsala wine cooking out. All right, we put the shallots in there. We put the garlic in there. We got the mushrooms in here, all smelling and looking great. All right. I didn't do any salt and pepper yet because I'm going to adjust in a second. Remember we talked about this when you buy the broths, right, and the stocks that are in the can or the bouillons. They have a lot of salt in it already. So please just know what you're working with and adjust accordingly, all right? So if they're salty, you want to be careful, all right? So I want to see if the alcohol's cooking out. I can smell it. It's still not out yet. Notice I touched it with my finger. When you touch it like this, it's quick. I'm not going to get burnt. I don't recommend it at home. I don't want you to get burnt there. But you can certainly just be careful, okay? All right, so that's cooking down. Well, the flavors cook out now. Now, listen, you want to do a chicken masala, and you're already at this stage already. So you put your stock in, you finish it with your butter. your Marsala sauce is done. You want to put other things into it, be my guest. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of sage to this, okay, right from my garden as well. Okay, very similar to the saltimbocca we talked about. So I'm just chopping this guy. Now with sage, rosemary, thyme, right? You need to cook it a little bit. You can't just put it in raw. It has to kind of cook, right? The flavor's got to, it's one of those herbs that do better with cooking. If you put them in raw, they kind of have a weird texture and taste to them. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so that's looking great. We got our rice here. I just want to give it a quick stir. Make sure we're looking good on this one. So I'm going to put a splash more of stock in it because it's a little hard. Okay. My recommendation to you is just follow the package directions. Okay. So listen, let's talk about package directions. This is an important thing, right? I was in cooking school, and one of the greatest things I learned in cooking school was follow the directions. Companies spend a lot of money making sure their product is handled really well, and so it has the best performance, so you want to buy it again. So they've done a lot of R&D on it and testing. Follow the directions. It's hard for us, a man, to say, no, we don't follow directions. The hard chefs the one day, I want to cook what I want. Follow directions. So read the directions on your packaging. All the time, people ask me at home, well, how do you cook this? Well, what does the directions say? You're a chef, you don't know? I don't know, I don't make that dish. I didn't buy that product. Follow directions. All right, so this is cooked down. All right, we have our stock here. It's a little on the rich side. So this is going to be our sauce. Now, sometimes you get the stock and it's really rich and deep in flavor, or maybe you made it too rich. So what I like to do is sometimes adjust it with a little touch of water. And there's two reasons for that. One, if it's too thick, right? Also, you want the flavors to start to marry together. So if it's too thick already and you cook it down further, maybe you don't have enough time to develop its flavor. So you want to cook it, put a little water in it, let it cook down, the flavors develop a little bit. When it gets to the right consistency, it's ready to go. If it's too thick or just very viscous, and you go to cook it down to try to develop the flavor, it may be too thick now to work with. So you're going to have to thin it down anyway. So put a little water in it, let it saute up a little bit, and I think what you'll do, you'll find that you cook it down, let the flavors come up. Now, we'll talk about butter in a second. In a hotel environment, for production, I may thicken it with a little roux, as we call it, a little flour and butter mixture for a production standpoint, because I can't reduce it all the way. It's a lot more work, and it's just not practical. But at home or in a restaurant that you go to, they may finish it with butter. And butter, what it does is it gives you a little body and then coats your food a little bit better. Okay? All right. So we got our stock, our sauce cooking down. We have our rice working here. We have our peppers in the oven. Okay? They smell great. We got our swordfish. You can't see it, but I'm telling you it's great. You got swordfish working here. And you got the chicken that's almost done, actually. All right? So we're going to come back in a minute. I still got a couple more things to do. And by that time, we're going to be ready to eat. All right, guys, welcome back to service time. So like we said, we have the sauce working. We have the rice working. We have the peppers in the oven. We have the swordfish in the oven. We have the chicken in the oven. Everything's happening. So it's service time. The banquet's going on. We're almost there. We got a couple more things to do. So I'm going to make a quick barbecue sauce that's going to go on top of the pork. On the top of the swordfish. So it's actually kind of a cheating barbecue sauce. I'll tell you about that. So it's a barbecue sauce that you already do. You doctor it up. Your favorite one, wherever you want. At the hotel, we were making barbecue sauce. I was working with molasses barbecue sauce, which is, it's really a New England tradition. If anyone remembers, no one really remembers, a long time ago, but in the 1900s, the molasses trade was big here, and the rum trade was big in Boston. And so there was a big history with rum being produced here because of the molasses, and it was shipped down. So there was a big Great Fire at the North End, the molasses fire that wiped out, and there's a lot of tragedy. But there's a history to it for here. So I put molasses in my barbecue sauce, and when I make it, it's why it's a little deeper in color here. But what I would do in this one here is I take a little bit of pineapple, okay? And normally I grill them at the hotel. Today, for your purposes, I'm not going to grill them, but you certainly are able to, if you like, and get a little richness to it. So there's a little pineapple pieces that I have right here. okay? And just take them and chop them up and have a nice chunkiness to it. So again, the barbecue sauce that we make, you know, it's kind of stewed for a long time with the molasses to it. Gives a deeper color. You could certainly use your favorite ones and just doctor it up. Okay, so there's our little bit of pineapple. I'm going to not grill it today. I put some scallions in here, okay, and a little bit of tomato. These are tomatoes from the garden, nice cherry tomatoes. These are from my in-laws. Thanks, Vivian and Tony, from giving me your tomatoes today and giving you a shout out. So it's perfect for you. And I want to shout out to a friend of mine who's watching today. One of my cooks that really works on this menu a lot for me. Tony, thank you so much for all you do. Really appreciate it. This is for you. This is for you. I appreciate it. I'm putting a little bit of heat in here. A little pinch of cayenne pepper. Be careful, not too much. So you have this great little barbecue sauce that I just kind of doctored up, okay? Like I said, we grill the pineapple, okay? You don't have to do too much to this, but it has a nice little, it's not really a salsa per se, it's just kind of chunkiness, and this is gonna go great with that swordfish. All right, so we'll put that off to the side. That's done. How simple was that? We didn't have to do much. Really just kind of take a nice barbecue sauce. Now, let's talk a little bit about the heat that went in here. I put a little bit of cayenne pepper. I'm probably going to put a little bit more. But one thing about cayenne pepper, or anything you work with heat, in my world at a banquet, I can't make it spicy for everybody. I can't do that. I got to kind of make it a little bit more on the neutral side. I can put a tiny bit of heat, but imagine having a function for 200. 100 of these swordfish go out, and it's too hot. It's not going to work, right? So you got to be a little bit on the neutral side. If I'm a particular dish in a restaurant where you're coming in, it's one and it says spicy, then you could say, yeah, that's a spicy dish. It's for one person. You know, it's personal. Where when I have a volume, I have to be careful. All right, we're going to jump over here. Our sauce looks great. Leave that guy alone. He's just about done. We're going to throw some tomatoes in here just for some beautiful color. Let that cook down. So with the cover on it, it's still juicy. I want a little bit cook down and dry out a little bit, so I'm going to leave the cover off. The tomatoes, I don't want them to cook too much, so I'm just going to have them nice and chunky and vibrant. Okay, it's more for aesthetics on this one. I got some parsley that's going to go on top of here. It's Italian parsley, a lot more vibrant than your typical curly parsley. Okay. Turn this guy up. Since I took the cover off, they lost some heat. So this, like this. Now, once this one's done, we're going to add a little butter to it. All right, so I see my rice over here. Looks like it's done. I'm going to let it go for a little bit more. Let it get dry. Shut it off. Let it sit. And that's looking good. Okay. And then the final piece of the puzzle is our Swiss chard. So while I'm waiting for that sauce to cook down, I'm going to take some shallots, cut them into some rings. Break these little rings here, right? Now, Swiss chard and spinach go really quickly. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to let this guy get nice and hot, and we're going to go fast with it. So we put our shallots in here, the rings. We're going to put some oil in here. And then, why not? We'll put a little bit of garlic. It doesn't hurt. I can see that sauce cooking down. We have our garlic in here. Now, let this guy get nice and hot. Swiss chard is really simple. Once you wash it, it has residual water on it, and it steams a little bit. We're going to splash a wine to it, let it steam up, leave it a little underdone, make sure the wine's cooked out, salt and pepper, voila, done. Perfect. All right, so we have our sauce right here. It's looking great. I want to give it a quick taste. Marsala tastes really nice, a little sweet, right? Nice and vibrant. All right, our chicken is really, really done. It's beautiful. So let me get this out of the oven. I'll show you how nice that looks. Swordfish is just about done. All right, look at this. This is great. Put this right on top here. Take a look at this. Come closer. All right, what I want to show you about this, pancetta is nice and tight. I can feel the chicken is not springy. I got a little bit of nice bleed out from the cheese. I got a little juice in the pan. This is beautiful, just like that. I'm happy just on that one. All right, our sauce is done here. We're gonna shut it off. Now, we're gonna add butter to it. I told you about butter at the end is gonna give it some body, and it's gonna make it luscious and nice and smooth, right? Our rice is just about done. It's getting dry right there. Okay, I can see it's looking beautiful. It's almost done. Take that cover off. Now, I'm gonna let this cool down for a second. If I put the butter in now, it's gonna separate and break, then it's gonna be oily. I don't want that, so we're gonna be careful with that. Let it cool down for a second, okay? In the meantime, we'll let the chicken rest, as they say, right? The chicken's tired, did a lot of work. We seared them, we stuck a knife in them, we stuffed it, we wrapped it, and we threw them in the oven. The chicken's tired, let it rest. So we're gonna let it rest so it holds its juice in, right? Let that sit there, okay? We got some beautiful plates here. I wanna tell you about these plates in a minute. These plates we're gonna work with. These are my bone china plates that I use for VIPs at the hotel. When I had the Dalai Lama in, I also had some celebrities and I had some other people, some executives, and we use these beautiful bone china plates, nice and white and bright. Okay, that's what we're gonna work with today. All right, so we got our rice looking great. Let it sit there. We got our swordfish. We're gonna take a look at our swordfish. I think that's close to being ready as well. And then the peppers are just about done. Swordfish needs about a minute or so. Let that go. And now the peppers, we got a little bit of a light blister on these guys here. All right, we'll come back to that. So our sauce is ready. Let it sit for a little bit more. Now we're waiting for the Swiss chard. And our wine is right here. So we got a couple things happening. Salt, pepper, wine. Notice that the pepper is a little bit on the coarse side. Feels better. I can feel it pops in your mouth a little bit more. Sometimes you do want a fine pepper, like a white or a fine black pepper. But this one, you can feel it, and it has a little more assertiveness when you cook with it. Okay? So we got a... All right, our rice is done. Let that sit. Shut that up, shut this off. Now, you want to let the rice sit a little bit so it absorbs, right? We're going to add some scallions to it, and we'll put it in a nice little pot, a serving vessel, and we'll come back to that in a second. All right? So we have our Swiss chard ready to go. So you see what's happening here, right? You see that the onions are starting to cook up, the shallots. Shallots are in the onion family, right? So are scallions, right? But they all lend themselves differently to what you're working with. The shallots are a little more refined. Scallions or green onions are a little bit more lighter so that you can eat them raw and textured differently. A red onion would be a different sweetness. A Vidalia onion is really sweet. So they all lend themselves differently if you're going to cook them, put them in raw, do a quick saute. If you want a refinement, this works really well because you don't need to cook these long, okay? And scallions, you don't need to cook at all. But you do need to wash scallions really well. I want to talk about the safety of washing scallions. Let me actually grab a scallion so you can see these scallions here that I have, the green onions. Inside the little opening here, it's where dirt gets in. So you got to submerge them. So you cut them, submerge them in water, and let them sit for a minute or so, and then agitate them so that all that sand and grit comes out. That's where the culprit is for a lot of foodborne illnesses is. Because they grow in the fields, they have dirt inside there, a lot of bacteria, and if you don't wash it good, and what do you typically do with scallions? You put them on top of nachos, you put them on top of a chicken dish, you put them on top of something without cooking them. So if you don't wash them good, you could put yourself at risk. So make sure you kind of submerge them, you agitate them. I like to cut them first so it's all inside there, and you'll see a little grit on the bottom of the pan, of the bowl, right? So as I'm talking, I can see our shallots are starting to cook here. All right, So this is important. A little step I want to show you. When you do these leafy greens, put the salt in the beginning, put the pepper in the beginning. The salt dissolves a little bit better, okay? You'll see there's a little bit of water on here. You can hear it start to pop. That's the water in it. And that right there will wilt it. So I'm just going to massage it a little bit, okay? This guy's trying to jump out, kind of like a lobster. Get him back in there, all right? A little bit of wine. I don't want to put too much wine because I may not cook this long. So I don't want this to be in a situation where it's gonna have to cook long. A little more salt and pepper on that one. That's what we're gonna do today. There's plenty here, but we'll see what we're doing. Okay, you can hear it start to steam up a little bit. You don't need a lot of cooking on this one. Spinach is even less cooking. Let it steam up, okay? All right, so let's go to this rice right here. Now, chicken's looking great. It's nice and hot. You got a nice casserole dish. You serve it in that. We will put some chicken on one of these plates in a minute, okay? We have that rice here. We'll put in the scallions in this one. I'm just going to stir this guy around. Nice and bright and vibrant. That saffron comes out, smells great, looks awesome. So I got these fun little serving vessels right here. These are not cooking ones. You don't cook with these. You're just serving them. So there's more aesthetics. Kind of fun. You bring them on the table. You know, and a lot of times in the chef world, we don't fill it up where it's overflowing, right? We take more of the negative space or the aesthetics of it piled a certain way, not necessarily just filled to the rim and falling over. Sometimes there's a reason for that too. But in this case here, we have this great rice on the side right there. Okay, we'll come back to this rice because we can use them to plate up. So it's plate up time. Once we get plate up time, that's a whole nother world in the hotels. Everyone's got to come over, no talking, hurry up, get ready. It's service time, we got to go. So that's what we do. All right. So we got this. I can smell the wine cooking out, okay? I put the salt and pepper in here. We're going to put the shallots on top like this. Now, leafy greens, I didn't do it today, but leafy greens really do well with a little pinch of nutmeg. It has that nice little nuttiness that kind of works to it, okay? So once you get that wine cooked out, these are good to go. I like them a little underdone so they have more texture. So you don't want to over wilt them. This is wilted. You don't want to cook them too much, okay? So that's good on that one. And we'll put this one. We got a white one. We'll do a black one. Okay. So I want to make sure the alcohol is cooked out. All right. So I got a little bit of butter in here. This butter is going to give me a little bit of richness to it. Hold up. Okay. You want to omit the butter? Go for it. You don't have to have it. I like it. I'm the chef. I'm using it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. You're the chef at your place. All right, here we go. This is all done. We don't have to cook this long. Quick saute. Perfect. Nice big chunky pieces. Kind of cool. This is one of those things, and maybe you do want to overflow it a little bit because it looks good. Okay? We're going to steal a little bit for presentation for the other one. All right? Come back to that one. So we have our saffron rice. We have our Swiss chard sauteed with some shallots. Okay. So remember I told you about this guy. Let's not forget him. We got to put a little bit of butter in here. Okay. And now we're going to swirl them in. This is going to be give us a nice little lusciousness, round out the flavor. Okay. And give you a little body. Now it's important when you cook with something with butter or roux, it coats the product you're working with. So if it's a chicken or a piece of fish, you want something to coat it so you get a better mouth texture to it. Otherwise, if it's brothy and you don't have a coating to it, you need to actually enhance the flavor more and put more seasoning in it to make up for the difference. So if you work with a brothy type item, some restaurants, you'll have a deeper flavor to it. But when you do something that's been with a thickening agent, particularly like a roux or cornstarch, that's going to be even thicker. And it's going to coat your tongue. It's going to coat the meat. The butter doesn't coat as strong, but it gives a nice creaminess to it. All right, so there's your butter. All right. All right, we're ready to go here. Look at this. So we got a lot of things happening right now. There's our peppers. See that? This is what I want to show you. You have that nice little blisteredness in the peppers. Okay? And then we got our swordfish, which is all good to go. Look how beautiful this guy looks. That's awesome. Nice and tender and juicy. We got a swordfish. We got the chicken. We got the peppers. Don't you wish you were here right now? I know that I'm going to eat really well tonight because I think I might have told you this before. This is dinner when I go home. So I take a little bit. I leave it for the guys here filming. They enjoy it. And then we take some home. We eat it. And it's always great. So you're missing out. Sorry. But you got to do it yourself. You're the chef. You make it. I showed you how to do it, how simple it is, right? So, look. Okay, listen. I know we say it's always simple. Chefs like to say that. This is a little more involved than what we've done in the past. But if you break it down individually, it's really not that difficult. All right, so here we go. Now it's time to plate up. So we got to get going here. Let me get this going here first. So we got this beautiful Swiss chard, okay? Got these shallots right in here. And we're going to take a nice chicken, nice fat piece of chicken right on top. Okay, we'll leave these guys here. And now we're going to take some sauce. I'm going to give them a spoon here. There we go. Perfect. A little bit on top. Let's not be cheap with the mushroom. All right, and now we have our chicken in our pan here. And if you're doing this at home more for like a buffet style or a family style, you have this nice juice in the bottom of the pan. And you get a piece of bread and you suck it right up. Oh my God, it's so good. This Marsala sauce. So this is kind of a really fancy salt and bulk, as I mentioned. That sauce is not going to go to waste, what's in the pan, so you're definitely not going to let it go to waste. All right? So we have this beautiful chicken here, right? And look how nice and vibrant this is. This is important that I want to show you about this plate here. It pools on the bottom, and that to me is really important, so I get a nice deep color, and then I get a really nice rim to it. So pools to the bottom. It's very clean, right? So let's not forget about our peppers over here for a second. So we've got these great peppers with a little bit of white balsamic or any vinegar really. I just kind of had it available. Rosemary. We got these nice peppers right here. Okay. Put a little bit of parsley on top. Break them up. You don't need to do too much to it. You got your little sides right there. All right. Let's get our little rice and our swordfish going here. So our swordfish, now this is going to have a nice color to it. Look how bright that is. Bright yellow. And then we'll take a nice piece of swordfish. We're going to use a little spatula on this one. On the side. You don't always have to put things on top, right? We can just put it on the side. And then you can have more of that type of presentation where everything's individualized. This is piled, right? Now we have our great little pineapple barbecue sauce. You can grill them if you like, put a little heat if you like. Okay? Put a little bit on the side here, a little tomato. I like to put a little oil on this one to give it a little love, as we call it. Has a more of a rustic, has a more of a restaurant feel to it. These little droplets of oil. Okay, you have that nice pistachio crust on that one. Really nice and flavorful. and moist. So there's your swordfish with your saffron rice. So now we have these swordfish pieces here. Okay, and we're gonna dress this up a little bit. So I showed you a presentation of an individual plate, and I showed you a presentation of a buffet style of both these guys, right? Take those little plates out of the way. I don't need them right now. And now, these are hot, so be careful. And then put some more scallions if you want on top, or if you want to put a nice sprig of parsley on here. Okay. And now we got some Swiss chard. We got the rice, and we got some peppers. And I think there we are. There is the Hyatt Regency Boston's wedding menu, our signature dishes. We have a pancetta, Fontina stuffed chicken. We have a pistachio crusted swordfish, some sauteed Swiss chard, some saffron basmati rice, and some roasted red peppers. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'd like to, again, thanks to Hyatt Regency Boston to allowing us to do this today, sponsoring us. Certainly check us out at HyattRegencyBoston.com. And we'll see you real soon. I hope you really enjoy this. So take a look at this. I hope you make it. Let me know what you think. Thank you and have a great night.